right, well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us again for another Media Lab workshop. I'm gonna drop the link to our slides in the chat box again, so you can follow along with us and click on all the good links that we have to share. If you haven't already, please take a moment and introduce yourself in the chat box. Tell us where you are and what you teach, and anything else you think the group might like to know about how you're doing today. I am Nikki Vredenberg, and I'm the Director of Education here at Montana PBS, and I'm joined today by my good friend, Sarah Rainey from Billings. Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself to the group?
Yeah, so I am the third, I just should not have said third for 12 tech integration specialists. It should be 3 through 8 tech integration specialists. I'm a former K-8 SPED teacher, Spanish, digital literacy teacher, and I have been in this job for, this is my 4th year.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, it's great to have Sarah here. I got to know Sarah through my other tech integration friends in Billings, and she's been helping us with these workshops. She worked with us this summer and did Pixton with us. So I think you're really going to enjoy everything there is for Sarah to teach you today. So I'll move on here in our slideshow. If you're just joining us, we do Media Lab to help teachers explore tools for digital storytelling. Our goal is to have you focus on just one tool during this time and give you some great examples and some ideas and how it might work with your classroom, and further inspire you to use our Finding Your Roots program with your students. And we're really hoping teachers are excited to have their kids investigate their family history and possibly look into developing family research projects in your classroom. Our Media Lab workshops are archived on our website, which as of this week, I have taken over updating myself. So your patience will be appreciated as I fumble through that every week, but I will look to have the link up by the end of the week and keep the schedule as updated as possible. We are here because of a grant from the PBS station in Washington, D.C., WETA, and they asked us to develop teacher trainings to encourage teachers to use Finding Your Roots in your classroom. And Finding Your Roots can be watched on Montana PBS on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. The new season, the 8th season, started in January and is every week until the end of April. And this season, we have lots of different celebrities that are learning things about their past that have been family secrets and things that has never been okay to talk about in their families. And they're learning an enormous amount. There will be a collection aligned to season 8 sometime this month. I check it every day to see if they've published it yet. And it will feature clips from the new season and some of the themes of telling family stories and learning about your family by doing family research. In Finding Your Roots, you can study genealogy, DNA research, family history, and then just history in general. It's an interesting way to explore topics of history. I'm going to take a moment.
All right,
I'm not going to show that. I'm going to take a moment and share one Finding Your Roots teaching resource. I try to do that in all of these. And I've been trying to focus on resources that are on our website, PBS Learning Media. And for those of you who may not have visited that site before, PBS Learning Media is a website for teachers. It's free, and it's a repository of media created by PBS stations all over the country. Not all PBS stations contribute to it, but many do, including PBS National. So if you're at home and you're watching a show on PBS and you think, gosh, this would be a really cool show to share with my students to teach X, Y, or Z, consider going to our website and typing in the name of that show and check out if there are any resources for it. It features video clips and lesson plans. It's PBS content packaged for classroom use. So clips might be anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes long. They're aligned to state and national standards. And then they have things like discussion questions and graphic organizer and suggested activities that you might want to use. So you can go to the Learning Media website and type Finding Your Roots, and you'll come across the Finding Your Roots collection that has the last 7 seasons worth of teaching resources. And the one I'm going to show you is this one here today, featuring Cal Penn. And I chose this one because Sarah's going to talk about doing projects with students where they talk about their traditions, their family traditions, or things that their family has been doing for years and years. And there's a similar theme in this video with Cal Penn, and he's talking about his grandfather and something that his grandfather did that he didn't even realize why his grandfather did it, that was very important to him. So I'm going to click to this. This is what the resource looks like on PBS Learning Media. I'm going to show the clip and give me a thumbs up if it looks and sounds okay, because I didn't optimize the video for this one.
Growing up, struggling to fit in and find himself,
Okay.
Cal was especially inspired by his maternal grandfather, a man named Indravadan Butt. Indravadan was a teacher, a lover of literature and storytelling, and in his youth, an activist who had marched with Gandhi. He set an example for Cal, connecting him to his family's past while also pointing him towards the future.
My grandfather used to have this photo of Gandhi hanging in his house. And I remember, from the time I was a little kid, I remember seeing that photo and I would hear stories about it. And after they passed away, I said, "What's happening to that photo?" I said, "Well, why don't you take it? You have the biggest connection to it. You've always had a thing for it." And I had the chance to hang that in my wall in my office at the White House.
Oh, that's cool.
As just sort of just a reminder,
Yeah. I wanted to help Cal better understand his grandfather's connections to Gandhi. They were more extensive than he knew. The story began in 1918 in the town of Amod in central India, where Indravadan grew up. At the time, India was a British colony, and Gandhi was agitating for independence, building a movement that focused on the fact that India was required to import British cloth at inflated prices. Gandhi was encouraging Indians to spin their own cloth, called khadi, and to wear it in public as a protest against the injustice of colonial rule. His movement soon drew attention from around the world. Any idea how your family responded to Gandhi's call to action?
I assume they made a bunch of cloth.
Yeah. Could you please turn the page? You know who that is?
No.
That's Indravadan. That's your grandfather. I want you to take a close look. Look at those white clothes that he's wearing. That's khadi.
Wow. That's nuts.
And by wearing khadi, your grandfather was making a bold statement against imperialism. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's
You
awesome.
just think the fabric of your suit would be a
Right.
nationalist. It's cool,
That's
man.
cool.
Gandhi was such a genius.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Cal, your family told us that your grandfather continued to wear khadi for the remainder of his life. Do you remember that?
I do remember that he would always wear white, except when it was cold in New Jersey and there would be a sweater on top of it.
Indravadan took a risk in following Gandhi, and wearing khadi was only a small part of that risk. In 1930, Gandhi passed through Amod on his famed Salt March, a protest against British efforts to prevent Indians from collecting and selling their own salt. We believe Indravadan joined this march, which was soon confronted by British police outside the town of Dharasana.
Police charged, belaboring the raiders on all sides. The volunteers made no resistance. As the police swung lustily with their sticks, the natives simply dropped in their tracks. With almost unbelievable meekness, they submitted in the clubbing and were carried away by their comrades who had collected a score of stretchers.
Now, we don't know if your grandfather was at Dharasana that day. Your family told us that he suffered a beating, though.
Yes.
During a protest.
He did tell me a story about getting beaten by British soldiers. I think he still had a scar on his leg, if I'm not mistaken. And that was, I think, the only time I ever saw him shed a tear.
Really?
Was recounting that story.
Huh.
But reading this account, I feel like it's giving me a very, I feel like a clear participant in something that previously was only a chapter in a history book.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
All right. Well, I think for me, the strongest statement he said there was, I feel like a participant in something that was only the chapter of a history book. I imagine that probably resonated with all of you. Just that's what investigating our family history can do. And something that, you know, yeah, my grandfather always wore white, actually, now that I think about it, and finding out why, you know, what was the reason for this custom that was very simple that he may have not thought about before. Did anybody else have anything that came up or resonated while you were watching that clip?
I just love how he made the connection to maybe stories that he's heard from his grandfather, and now we have the, you know, historical evidence of that.
Yep. I thought so too.
I think it's interesting where they had basically why he was wearing white. If we think of our own families and our own ancestors and things, it'd be nice. I think back to my grandfather, and he was a really quiet guy. And there's a lot of things he did that I now would like to ask him, why do you do that? Or why do you do that way?
Yep. Sharon said it certainly made history personal for him. And I think that's what I love about this show, is that suddenly history feels like not something that happened in a book, but something that actually happened to your family. All right, well, feel free to share your ideas as they come up for you in the chat box, and I'll keep engaging with you there. I'm going to turn it over to our guest presenter, Sarah Rainey, who's going to teach you about a tool that's quickly become one of my favorites, Pixton Comics. So take it away, Sarah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nikki, for having me. I love Pixton so much. I show it whenever I can, and unfortunately, in the middle of me showing Pixton in the Media Lab last summer and planning this, Pixton has changed things a bit, and it's no longer free. There was always a free kind of stripped down version, but of course, you know, in giving lots of things away during a pandemic, for teachers to be successful, they now have to change things a bit. So Pixton now has a 7-day trial. And I really encourage you to just try it out. The possibilities really are endless. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Please feel free at any time, just interrupt me, because obviously I can't see you. So I am so much more of a shower than I am, you know, reading off all of this stuff. So Pixton really is a comic or digital storytelling tool, and you can use it in so many ways. So we're going to look at some of the uses here. So you and your students will make avatars, which for our younger teachers of younger students, it's very fun because you can print those off and use them as bookmarks or use them around the room. For interviews, this example down here, I just took our Go Math book and created a story problem essentially right out of the text. So that way it became really real for students. I downloaded it and just put it in a Google form so students could answer the questions right there. I am a huge proponent of student creation. And I think that sometimes, well, I think our students are dying to create, but I also think that sometimes they're limited by artistic ability. And Pixton takes away some of that and allows them to be extremely creative. So as I said before, there's a 7-day trial. If you wanted to use Pixton without students, if you wanted to create your own comics, it would be $9.99 a month. The yearly classroom really is the best deal because your students have access to everything. And what I love is just then you as a teacher get all these amazing examples that you get to share with people. So when you first go into Pixton, let me go ahead. That is not what I was going to show you. All right. I had the opportunity of going into some 4th grade classrooms, and we really wanted to help kids see and really think about their family traditions, which can be difficult for kids to, I don't know, kind of pare down. You know, similar to the video that we saw, and his grandfather always wearing white, and then him making the connection to, oh, that was essentially a tradition, and understanding why. I did have students first go into Jamboard and really try and brainstorm what they do for their family tradition. And it's different for everybody. So Noah right here chose Christmas. And so he really kind of broke it down into small pieces. So we'll have 1 to 2 dinners, mainly one is Mexican food. It all happens on Christmas Eve, and so on. So they make pozole and have enchiladas and tamales and so on. And so now, after the students had time to really pare that down, really get it organized, we did have them go into Pixton, and they got to create a comic explaining that. So one of my favorites, I'm going to go ahead and show. This is my buddy Nora. So I'm going to show you some of the student examples, and then I'm going to walk you through exactly how to create these things. And then we're going to have some work time, so you all have a chance to sign up. All right. So let's see, Nora's. All right. What I loved about doing this in students telling their stories or their traditions is that it was different for everybody. I modeled it by telling them what happens on my birthday and explaining how that's a tradition in our family. Nora here was talking about the tradition of a powwow with her family. What's nice about Pixton is when students, they create their avatar and they get to be in their comic strip. They can create their family members too, their classmates can be in there. So this is Nora, and she's telling us, she's going to tell us about the tradition of her family going to a powwow. So she wakes up and gets dressed and packs her regalia and moccasins, and then they leave to go to the powwow grounds. So these are background images that she found in Pixton. And then she was able to then go ahead and search online for a background that would actually work for what she really wanted back there. So this is an image that she found in Google, and we were able to put it then in as a background. So she had some powwow kind of campgrounds. And then obviously she's buying snacks then at the end of her time at the powwow. But what's really nice is that the students can just have themselves in here talking about something. They can do it for book reports. They can do it for like persuasive writing. It's really great for. And again, this is a fantastic way for kids to be able to share things about themselves. They can be creative, and it doesn't take as much time if they were to maybe draw backgrounds and things like that. So do we have any questions?
I think I got them in the chat box. Just
All
kind
right.
of the difference between app and web browser based. So
yeah,
this
so
isn't an app.
Right, it used to be, and it's not now. So everything migrated over to Pixton EDU because there were two kind of separate things, and now we don't have that. So it's kind of just merged into one. There is Pixton for Business and all of that, but I think the Pixton EDU is the biggest thing.
Sarah, can you like create a background off of, like, let's say you had, like, I noticed you had a backyard. So if you have a generic backyard, can you place certain like pieces in there to customize it maybe towards what your backyard looks like? Or
Yep, absolutely. So I'm going to walk you through all of that. So the first thing that will happen when you sign into Pixton is you're prompted to create an avatar. And so the students spend a little time, sometimes too much time, creating themselves here. But what's nice then as a teacher, I have our class. So if I go into my classrooms after every student has joined, so it's really easy. If you've noticed, I can create a new classroom. Okay. And it's going to allow me to set things up. What's nice about this is if I want to say, okay, this is for 6th grade, it's going to give me content that's deemed appropriate for that age level and lower. So if you choose, say, post-secondary, it's going to open up everything. And sometimes there might be weapons and things like that. So it is, they do a really good job of keeping it age appropriate. And then again, you can go ahead, and this is also for them to just kind of keep a record of where they're at. For world languages, this is absolutely wonderful. I love it. So let's just choose this. And then I have some options as a teacher. So I can show wheelchairs, hearing aids, which actually is so nice for our students. It's really inclusive. And then there's the non-binary option as well. So let's just say I choose all those. And then I have even more things here. This is actually new. So I can choose how I want this to go. So if I'm going to use this for a health class, yeah, I can show organs and bones. Probably don't want to include that. There's just, you know, it's going to depend on your age level. Then you have two options of choosing how you want to share this out. So in our district, we're a Google district, so we always choose this. This would be very easy choosing Pixton usernames though. And you can go ahead and just add students to the class, and they can get in pretty easily that way. Then it's not going to let me go back. Come on. Nope. I'll just open another one. All right. So once I've created my class and I have my students in there, if it loads, all right, I can go to my classrooms, and it really does look similar to Google Classroom. I have all my classes here. If I have a new student that joins, I can go ahead and just get them this join link and put it in Google Classroom. And it should be pretty easy for them to join. I can also see how many students are here. So if I want to view the class, here are my students and their avatars that they created. But super fun, we have the class photo, which I got to tell you, even for high school teachers, kids love this. A lot of teachers are putting this as their background to Google Classroom, the Google Classroom banner, or they're customizing it based on, you know, here's St. Patrick's Day. And you can just download this here and then upload it right to Google Classroom as your banner. So that's very fun. One word of advice I always tell students, I want it to look like you. I want to look at the avatar and say, oh, that looks like Nikki. I can see that. If you want blue hair, don't put it in here if your hair isn't blue. Just keep it simple. And then the principals are actually really nice as a teacher. You can have your student cards, themed avatars, of course, where you can print these off individually. There's some fun character maps that I love that you could actually put a student in. So there's some fun resources there. And then what's nice is this is like a lot of tools anymore where students don't have to save it. It automatically saves. And because this is tied to student accounts, all of the student work shows up here. So anytime Brian makes a comic, I can see what he's making. Even if he's at home making it, I can see what he's doing. So it's very nice to actually see. There's a lot of kids who go home and do this. They love to come and express themselves. I use my daughter as an example. In 5th grade, she had to do kind of a book report or book review, and she's so shy, and she'd done everything else on a choice board, but she had to interview a character in the book. And she didn't want to do that with a green, you know, because I nerd out as her mom. I'm like, let's get a green screen, let's do this. And she's so shy. And so she just asked her teacher if she could create a Pixton. And so she created a comic of her interviewing the character in the book. So that was super fun. It allowed her to be creative, and she did really well on it because it was meeting her where she was at. And she was still, you know, getting the information across. All right, any questions right now? Looks like we have a lot going on in the chat. No, there is no place to see revisions, unfortunately, which is very sad. And Sarah, can you purchase one classroom and add as many classes as you want? You cannot, but here's a workaround. If you're a tech integration person like I am, I could have this, and I can add co-teachers. So that's how I do it with a lot of teachers. I create the class, and then I go ahead and add them as a co-teacher. So let's just use this one as an example. I can go up to the 3 dots and I can add a co-teacher here. And this is a different code that the teacher will get, and they can join as a co-teacher and then teach within their class. They would have access to everything.
So you don't have to, they don't have to purchase it.
Not if you, like in your capacity, Sarah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you have to pay per classroom that you create?
No. So as a teacher, if I buy it for $100, I can make as many classrooms as I want and have as many students, and add those co-teachers. But my teachers can't go in and create other classes themselves, because they're kind of piggybacking off of your account there.
Yeah, which is okay, right? I mean, like that wouldn't, yeah.
Yep, for sure. What I've noticed is in having this, I was the one that would go in all the time, and then soon teachers were like, no, I'm going to get this because I have all these ideas of what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And so they just kind of took off with it that way.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it has like a district cost.
There is a district cost, but what we had found is it's so expensive that it's almost cheaper for individual teachers to get it.
Okay.
In looking at specific schools and such, and then again, you'd have to just get a quote from them for a district.
Right. Yeah, I guess I could see this at our 3rd through 5th grade has about 12 teachers in it. And if they all could, like, if you purchased it once for the school, then maybe they could all just have their own classroom.
Right. For sure.
Okay. That makes sense.
I do love the lesson ideas because Pixton is such a huge kind of platform. I get overwhelmed when I have lots of ideas, like there's lots of stuff coming at me. And so it is really nice to look at some of these things that they have. And you can search, let's say we wanted to do math and say for 3rd grade. Now it's going to give me some ideas here of how we can do this. So it's worth spending some time with. They're all tied to the standards. Because there's a content pack that's math shopping. There's a lot of that. So we'll actually dig into that right now. So go back to Pixton. All right. So when a student comes in, they have the option of just creating a comic. So we can create a comic here. And it always forces a title, which is nice. So like I have students name it the same thing with their name after it. That way I know what it's going to be right away, because as you saw, I have had kids create like 12 to 20 comics just going home and creating them. And so it's nice to have that title just kind of set. All right. So within this, I get to create my comic, and the driving force behind everything in comic creation is the background. The background is going to give me more characters. It's going to give me actions. So an example of that would be if I type in bedroom and there's a picture of a bed, then some of my actions are going to be that I can lay down. But if I say I'm out in the yard or I'm at a park, that's probably not going to be an option to lay down. So kind of keep those things in mind. For health enhancement teachers or human anatomy, it's great because there are so many backgrounds. So one thing I like to tell kids to do, searching, I mean, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of content packs. So if I wanted to say park, it will say, what do you want, amusement park? Sure, let's pick that. And so I have all these options. We'll just choose this first one. All right. So within this, with each background, there's a focus that I can choose. So I could have it up close. These are all pretty much the same. Let's do this location. Nope. This is a bad example, I guess. I shouldn't have done that one. because sometimes the focus will change and it will be zoomed in. Do that. No, oh yeah, okay. So if I wanted to start the comic far away like this, and I want to add a character, and then maybe on my next panel, I want to have it zoomed in to the house, I can do that. All right. So now I'm going to go to my characters, and here's what's nice. If I'm a part of a class, I'm connected with a class, all of my classmates are going to show up right here. Now I have a ton because as the teacher, I have lots of different classes. And so, but these are all students that are in one of the classes that I'm a teacher of. So let's say I wanted to add myself. It's all in alphabetical order. So I'm going to add myself. And I can change my outfit if I want it to be medieval. I mean, there's everything you can possibly imagine. Superheroes, all of that. We'll do superheroes. How about that? All right. I've done a lot of this with 6th grade social studies where they're studying ancient Egypt, ancient Rome, ancient Greece. We've done it with the Epic of Gilgamesh, all sorts of things. The possibilities really are endless. All right, so let's say this is where I'm at, and then maybe I'm lost. When I hit the back arrow, this is how I can add another character. So maybe I'll just add, I don't know, somebody I don't know. Perfect. All right, and with that character, I can change skin color, hair color, all of that. All right, not that you can see that. This is where I can edit or delete the characters. And this is also, again, I showed you the focus. This is how I can zoom in a little bit. So let's say I wanted it to look like this, where we're having a conversation or talking more, or we're walking side by side. This is where I can add the words. And a caption is just going to be something in the center, the bottom, or the top. And it's not overly fancy. But what I love is, as a former Spanish teacher, I have all of these characters down here that can make writing so much easier in another language. And then we also have math symbols here, which is huge. The other thing that I love is that we have this microphone here. So I work closely with the 4th grade class. And at the beginning of the year, this is a great way for students to introduce themselves too. These kids couldn't read. And so it's so nice that we have this button here for them to be able to just talk. And it puts everything into text there for them, which is a great accommodation tool. And then we talk about faces. So we can change our face. Happy, sad, concerned. Possibilities are endless here. And then we can change our actions. So over here is going to show us, maybe I'm over here and I can click and drag myself to move over. Or I can do silly moves like this. Or I can do my superhero moves. And these are going to have things like me flying. Like that. So the trick really is to get students to spend a lot of time thinking about, and they really do have to kind of dig in deep to search for some of these things. Like, obviously I knew that my actions, I needed it to be more superhero-ish so I could be flying like that. This is really good for students who struggle with social emotional issues, teaching them feelings and what their faces should look like. If somebody looks like this, what are we looking at here? Something that we did in a class, which I loved, was working on the zones of regulation. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it really is talking about how students are feeling during these times. And so the green zone, I'm calm when I'm watching TV, and we really wanted to emphasize how their faces look in it. I'm tired in the morning. I'm mad when my dog digs in the grass, and excited when my friend comes over. So this was another way for us to really focus in on some of those tools and those features. All right, questions, anybody?
Jerry's got one in the chat for you.
I haven't had them sketch it, Jerry, but I have had them do that Jamboard that I showed you. Because sometimes I think they get so, like, they're so excited and they get so inundated with ideas that then the time comes and they're like, they can't even make sense of it. You know, you have superheroes and you have pirates and you have all this stuff happening, and there's no organization to it. So I a lot of times do a lot of the Jamboard stuff. Like, I call the Jamboard the brain dump. Get all your ideas down, and now let's drag them and make sense of what would work well in this story. So, and some kids, it's a competition to see how many slides that, or how many panels they can get in here. They really like the dialogue, and the dialogue is good because for students who struggle with writing, dialogue is one of the hardest things for them to write. And so for them to go back and read it aloud so they can see if it makes sense is actually quite wonderful in this. And yes, the math symbols are crazy good, Lisa. They're actually, and that's the beauty of this tool, you guys, is that they're always changing and they're always adding. If you go into some of their other components on here where it was giving you ideas on lessons, there are so many things to show, like their suggestions. So I don't know, I'll walk you through some of those panels and such. Let me see, not panels, packs. All right. There is an interactive rubric, which is just kind of fun. But I had a kid the other day say, oh, what does mint mean? And so we could really talk about, you know, how we want to get over here. We want this to be just perfect. And we've also written quite a few rubrics about, you know, in regards to this. It's been great. So Comic School is something that Pixton provides for your students to learn how to make them. But I'm going to be honest, the Comic School is better for adults than kids, because we all know how most kids, you show them a little bit and they're just going to take off and do it. So I don't recommend, I kind of feel like this is a bit of a time waster. Like, they're going to figure it out, and they're going to figure out more things than we would ever know. The content packs that you get everything that's included here. And so you can search by anything, really. But I guarantee you that whatever the content area is that you teach or you're wanting to introduce, it will probably be here. There are novels, because of Winn-Dixie's right here. So you automatically have the characters and the backgrounds that go along with that. Cell biology is huge. I mean, it's unbelievable how many things are here. The book Holes, here's the content pack. And so you see all of the backgrounds that you'd get that go along with the story, the objects that they can hold, and all of the characters. And so again, what I love is that students aren't focusing too much on building that character. They just, it's there. Now it's going to be about how they can tell that in a story. All right, can you cut the slides out and paste them somewhere outside the program? So anything that you create in here, you can download. You can download it as an image. So let's just say I wanted to go to this class. Okay, this was actually really funny because Ariel is from Portugal. And so I love what he wrote here, that it's cold. So you can download, you can print right from here, or you can download. Because there's only one panel here, it's pretty easy. Let me find one that has multiple panels though. Okay. I don't even want to know what she was writing about. All right, so we say download, and you can choose how you want it downloaded. And then, like I said, that will just download it as an image to your computer. So I put it in Google Forms for a math assignment where students just had to answer it on there. You can print them off, anything like that. I really love it.
I was asking that, Sarah, because I was wondering if you could, what it would be like to cut the panels out of here, build them and cut them out and put them into the Wii video that we did last week, and you could make it into a movie almost,
Yep.
as opposed to a comic book, just a different
Yep.
way to play around with it.
Yep, very much so. Very much so. That's a great idea. All right, any other questions? I really have a hard time when tools are so expensive. But I will say that the uses are endless. I really do believe that. I always think it's good for teachers to like, it's a great way for teachers to introduce themselves. I think it's a great way for kids to see teachers as real people. So like when I made these math problems, I put their teachers in them. I modeled the family traditions, just the Epic of Gilgamesh. We've done, was Alexander the Great a hero or a zero? I mean, there's so many ways that you can take a topic and really just spice it up for your kids, because whether they're seniors in high school or they're kindergartners, they really are dying to create. And I like the emphasis on content in this, where they can come up with the background and all of that, but really it's going to be the words that they're saying. And yeah. Do we have any other questions?
This may be totally unfair, but I can't help myself.
Do it.
If you had to choose between this and say a tool like Book Creator, with the understanding that I know Book Creator is a little bit different, which would you go with?
Oh man, that's a tough one. You're right, it is unfair. Here's why I tend to lean towards Pixton. Because kids, we live in the day and age of graphic novels. And one of the things that I think often in school, we're asking kids to, they write. And I think that Book Creator is fabulous for that, to take informational writing, especially, and add pictures and make it come alive. I think this is putting kids in a different type of situation where they're actually the characters within it. And in some ways, they have to pare down that dialogue to make it more impactful in a more short and sweet way. I don't know. But then again, I tend to be a visual learner. And so for me, there's a lot to this.
I mean, I can totally geek out on this, so I get it. Like, I totally do. I just think like, in terms of, we are now being asked, like you said, thanks to COVID, we got so many things for free. And then thanks to COVID, we are now paying for so many more things that we've invested in. Like, if you're in a situation where you have limited funds and you have to choose, like, I guess I think I'm like you, like, I'm seeing the possibilities. We pay for Book Creator for a teacher at our high school, but the possibilities with this, I mean, if you wanted to actually create books, knowing that you could download the images, I mean, you could download the images and throw them into a Google slide, and you're doing almost the same thing that Book Creator is without the human, like, I guess without the animation of flipping the pages, but the concept is still kind of the same. Or like Jerry was saying, which was an awesome idea, you could pull this into WeVideo, create some kind of a talk over to it, so you could be verbally telling the story in the same way.
Yeah, creating an audiobook for sure.
Yeah, so that's why I was kind of like, I mean, we use Book Creator, but I almost would rather pay the money for something like this, knowing that it would also be so much easier to have multiple people using at the same time.
Right. I tend to.
It is an unfair question.
It is. Well, I get it though. And I don't say that because this is like the newest kind of, I don't know, comic book creator. As somebody who taught foreign language, I always wanted students to create a comic of two people speaking Spanish and like how you greet each other and all of that. And so body language matters, and what you're saying, like what your face is saying, matters. And so knowing the struggle of there not being accents over letters, and not being able to do some of this correctly. Or, you know, I was the student, I'm super creative, but I'm not artistic. And so for me to try and draw something, it's going to be the simplest thing ever. And that's hard to grade as a teacher too. This is already there. And so you're allowing kids to be creative in a different way. And I do like some of the features I haven't shown you is down here. We can choose, this is the time of day. So we can change the color, or that's the time of day there. There's just some kind of funky, you know, things you can do to color it. You can make the weather stormy, just with a click of a button, I love. You have all these features, you know, that you see in graphic novels of stuff happening. I love that it's just created right there for you. The other thing that I like is that they're just right here. So kids aren't afraid to click and try them out. Here are a lot of your very fun. Let's do this one. There we go. And then right here is how we're going to add that background. So Sarah, you had asked about adding a background of something more specific. So when I click on the camera here, this is where I can go ahead and drag something that I find online. So say I wanted a picture of, I don't know, whatever, it could be the Eiffel Tower. I can go ahead and drag that here. A lot of kids like creating this where they have the real picture, the picture in the background in the comic. It reminds them of, what is it, The Amazing Adventures of Gumball or some like cartoon where the cartoon character is out in the real world. And so some kids really dig on that kind of, you know, style here. If you had a picture saved on your computer, you can go ahead and just upload it right here. And it does save them here. So then the students will have them here all the time. So that's nice. And then again, when we're in this and we want to make sure it gets saved, it actually won't let us go somewhere else. Well, I guess it did. I guess when we want to be done, we can click on that. It does automatically save, but sometimes if kids are like, I can't get out of this or it's not working, we just always have them click the done button. The other thing that's nice is when we add a panel, it's actually going to copy this background because it's going to assume that you're not jumping from panel to panel in different kinds of ways. But if I wanted to, I can just go to the 3 dots and I can duplicate it completely or insert a blank panel. But what's kind of nice, and I show kids this, if on my first panel I'm like this, my second one, maybe my focus needs to be different. Maybe now we're talking up close. Or maybe on this one, my focus changes. I like how it can zoom in or zoom out. So maybe it's going to zoom in on me right here, and I'm going to have a thought to myself. So that's another thing that's nice when I add words. I have speech, thought, shout, and whisper. So if it's a thought, it's going to come out like that. And then if it's going to be a shout, it's going to look like that. So those things are already built into it, and that makes it nice. Because I don't think kids always realize how when they're reading a graphic novel, it's not like, oh, we're in this pane and then we go here and we go here. It's the same kind of setting, but we might be zoomed in or you might see it at a different angle. So I like
that's a time saver, Sarah. That's a huge time saver. And that in itself is like already telling me that's different from book creator, because that's so time consuming.
Yep, exactly. So somebody said, can we change the position of things? Absolutely. So let's take this panel here and I'm going to go to actions and I want to change my action. Like maybe I want to be facing him. If you can see right here, I'm turned that direction. I can just turn this way and I can even move myself back a little bit, or I can just be right in the center like that. Doesn't want to. All right. But then I can change all of these things. I can change, like on this panel now, maybe I'm bowing down to him or something, or maybe I'm going to point to something. If it goes, it's being slow right now. There we go. Something like that. And then again, I can change my faces. Well, those are my eyes, but I don't want to be cross-eyed in this. Although that would be interesting. So if I was angry, I can just type in angry, or there it is right there. And now it's going to give me, oh, look, even some kind of like explosive stuff. The other thing I like to show kids too, because we talk a lot about, when I was showing you the zones of regulation, a lot of times we talk about the red zone as you are explosive. And so you also have these features here. So this is where I can have something in my hand. Now, remember, I'm set up as an adult, so I have all of these weapons and stuff. Your students will not, because remember when we set up the class, you can say, no, we're not going to have these things. I'm not going to put a weapon in my hand. All right, but you can. But this lightning bolt in the center can give you feeling. And so a lot of times I'd show kids, like if I was angry, is that showing that I'm angry? Yeah, it's just adding a little bit more of an element, showing you that, man, this is serious. She's really mad. And so I think this is an element that sometimes we don't talk about with students, is the, you know, the graphic design of things and how we want things to look nice. And sometimes we give them Google Slides and they just go crazy and you're like, I can't read that font. I can't read this. I can't. This keeps it pared down. They don't pick different fonts. There's only one font. But it's more the actions and the words then need to really match what's happening there. So, have any other comments or questions? Hopefully I sold you all on Pixton. I would recommend though, when we do have some time here in just a minute, to really browse the content packs. I like getting ideas from everybody. And sometimes, you know, I think I have a good idea about it, and then I see something on here and I think, oh my gosh. You know, like this one right here, this cyberspace, kids can be, I've done like public service announcements where they use Pixton and they're standing in a computer and, you know, talking about digital citizenship or whatever. Again, organ systems, it's great for health enhancement. But yeah, I would really just spend some time searching through there and see what's out there. And then also, I really do recommend the lesson ideas, because there's some great ideas. And again, they're tied to standards. So yeah, we can go from there. These are for some older grades, because I know I showed a lot for the younger ones, but because you really can get into more storytelling. So, you know, in the older grades, we talk about having a title slide. And then the difference between the captioning versus the conversation, and how, you know, the captioning is kind of like telling the story, but what's happening in the pictures matches that up. And then I really like, you know, he couldn't find the pictures he wanted, so going online and finding those, same down here. So this one isn't necessarily dialogue heavy, but it very much, you know, they're using the vocabulary of the story. And so I think that's important too, to kind of show some of those examples, because our younger kids don't always understand the difference between that conversation. And then also having some of your characters in there almost narrating it. So he's talking about this, and then the captions are huge, and then kind of their justification for their answers. So I just think teaching them the captioning thing is pretty important in those upper grades too. All right.
So did anybody want to share just what you just tell us? If you didn't get a chance to put it in the folder, that's okay. Oh, I do have one in there. I'm gonna go ahead and share and show the one that's in the folder here. See who this belongs to.
That was me. I cheated though, because I already have my kids in there, so I had my avatar ready.
That's great though. That's great. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, so I did like if a new student was coming to our school, just some rules for our school. So the first one, sorry, I have a crying baby, is me saying I'm going to show my student Julia around, and then that's one of my students. And then just rules like this is our vending machine, when you can use them. And then I think I put asking if they could take art in 7th grade, but that's as far as I got.
Great. Got Jerry's shared his. Let's see if I can put it there. There we go. Can you hear it? Can you see it?
You are having a great hair day.
Yeah, that's my avatar, but I added a little extra curls to it.
That's fun. Sarah's going to be back next week, and she's going to be teaching us about an app for iPad and iPhone called Do Ink Green Screen, and it is a paid app. But it's only $4.99, so it's not too much of a bank breaker, and you don't need it on every single device that your kids use. We often recommend a couple of devices, download it on a couple and have it for these. So if you don't have access to iPads or an iPhone, this one won't be very much fun for you. So we don't have a non-Apple product or an alternative for this one. So you can join Sarah and I next week. Tomorrow I'll get your OPI units out to you. And I will work on the recording and hopefully have that on our website by the end of this week. So thank you everybody once again for joining us for great discussion and sharing your ideas and giving us the things that you made. And thank you, Sarah, so much for showing us this super fun tool. I think everybody really enjoyed it.
Sounds good. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email.